Hey, it's Brock here with Rock Hill Farms, and I'm here visiting my friend Larry from Full Circle Ozarks on YouTube. He's got a pretty cool channel about all the work they do here on the property, but I'm visiting today because I've been in the market for a sawmill for the last year and a half, and I've been traveling around using different brands and different models of sawmills trying to decide what's right for me. So, Larry, you did your research first too.
I did.
So why did you buy a Woodland Mills with all the options on the market?
I looked at a bunch of different mills, but what I liked about this one here, it was at the price range that I was looking for, and it could handle the lumber size log size without any issues. So it has all the features that I was looking for anyway.
There's a lot of things you can look for on a sawmill, and most of those don't really matter to me. I've got two concerns really. I guess I would say three. Number one is the size of log it can handle. Number two is the price, and that might be number one because I'm not a full-time logging operation. Right. So spending, $20,000 on a sawmill is probably not the smartest thing. And then the third thing, reliability. Is it a well-built machine? So right now we're gonna mill up a log, and then Larry's gonna give his review as a longtime user.
I'll be honored to do that with you, Brock.
All right, Larry, so the first question for me is always the process of how you want to rotate the log and make your cuts. So what are you going to use this lumber for?
I'm going to be building a chicken coop, so I need some actual 2x4s. We're actually nicknamed it the Coupe de Ville. So
I saw that on one of your videos. So in that case, we're going to make our cut, flip it over, and make a square cant and go all the way through that.
Yep. Almost every sawyer, one of the first things they'll do, they'll take a log and turn it into some type of a cant, and then from there they'll go ahead and cut the timber out of it.
The only exception obviously being if you want live edge.
Right.
And we have quite a bit of taper from one end to the other. Mm-hmm. Are you going to factor that in to try to center the pith?
We are. Matter of fact, I have a special jack for it. We'll measure the small end of the log, the big end of the log, and we'll get that pith level across the log. And this little jack makes it nice.
So this log does have a lot of taper, but the pith just happens to be off-centered towards the bottom. So the distance from our bed up to the pith is almost the same on each side. He's just slightly raised this end, and that just means we'll be taking more off the other end as we cut. These come with two different lengths of log stops, right? You have, or yes. It's got like a little built-in stop for when you get down to the cant.
Yeah. This one now actually has three. I put the stainless steel bunk covers on. And this is an option that you can get, but the bunk covers themselves have a small log stop built into these. What comes as a standard, you have the big, I think these are 18 inches, and then you have a shorter one that's about 6 inches. And the biggest difference is if this is mounted on the ground, then you can't get these out.
Get them down, yeah.
There's advantages and disadvantages about having the sawmill, at waist height. When you have a big log, then you have to come on the opposite side and walk around just to lower these.
Yeah, I definitely think I want to get mine set up high like this. Find this clamping system works pretty well.
It works reasonably well. It takes a little bit to get used to it.
That little logo sawmill I've been using, one thing I learned is check your stops after every cut because they can vibrate loose.
That feel sturdy for you?
Yeah. Well, I have a routine where you always shake it and you go, that ain't going nowhere.
One of the things that's going to be a little bit different today, I'm not going to be cutting with any liquid. These logs have got a lot of rain in them. They're pretty damp already.
That's something else I've been told is that you don't always, it depends on the species of wood, you don't necessarily always need a lubricant. What do you normally use when you are lubricating?
Water.
Water?
Just regular water. But the red oaks, the white oaks, which is primarily what I've been milling, in most cases if you mill it while it's less than a year old, you don't need anything.
So I'm guessing this is the pull start?
It is.
The newest one, I think they have the electric start option, but And then what's the horsepower on this engine?
This is a 14 horsepower engine. This one, the HM126, comes with, I think it's a 9 horsepower standard, or you can go the 14 horsepower option. I went ahead and added the 14 horse because I knew it'd be milling primarily oak. So.
Yeah, that's a good size engine for this.
And again, this particular 14 horse, the year I bought this one, which was a couple of years ago, they didn't offer the electric start in the 126. It was only the full start. The HM130 has the electric start.
You have leveled this out, so deciding how high to start is easier. You don't have to worry your blade's going to walk out of the log as you go or anything. So you're deciding how high you want to start based on just what it looks like it's going to take to square this off.
Yeah. It's definitely just a visual here. Sometimes you take my tape measure, and I'm shooting for at least a good four inches at the top.
And then after that, you're wanting 2x lumber, so you're going to cut it maybe 2 1/4, or are you using like the 4/4 scale on here, 8/4?
Normally, what I try to do is cut it actually right at a 1 1/2 for the projects that I'm using it on. Then a 1 1/2 inch 2x4, I mean, is plenty stout. So, but yeah,
some people try to match the fact that they may mix in some store-bought lumber, and then some people want the true 2-inch. So, just curious what you were going for.
And you know that's definitely a big issue. You know, if you're going to be trying to match lumber, you know, actual dimensional lumber, you need to factor that in. So, you need to also factor in a little bit of time for dry time if you're. Because you cut this normally about a 1 5/8, and then once it dries, then it's going to pretty much match dimensional.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of lumber I've been drying out for the last year, and it's ready to go now. A lot of people also use it without drying it because, depending on what you're doing, it might not matter that much. Some things can shrink and expand outside all they want.
We've built barns out of fresh cut lumber and green lumber, and some of them's been up for years and years. So it just depends on what you're going for.
So before I make you forget anything, are we ready to start up and cut?
We are ready to start this. So, and the other thing that I would add, like what I typically do, rather than doing a lot of measuring, I actually count the turns. There's several different techniques. Some people, they put a draw on these, so you can, it's a digital scale. I may do that in the future, but for me, what works out better is just to count the turns.
Yep. I know some people even put like a torque wrench in here, but I've talked to a couple other people that prefer that. It's simple. It's the same every time.
Yeah. The other thing I want to do on the HM126 with the 14 horsepower engine has the adjustable blade guide. So I want to slide this in.
If you're new to milling, you want that blade guide as close to the log as possible because the wider that is, the more ability to flex it has. Probably ready to turn it? Yeah. Larry's trying to give me some good information here off the camera. We got to get this recorded because I didn't know until recently there's different pitches on a sawmill blade. And what were you saying about your preference on that?
I'm actually cutting with a 7-degree blade, and that provides a real fine cut for, especially for hardwood. There's a multi-purpose blade that normally is at 10 degrees. You know, if you're going to be cutting some cedar or some pine, and occasional oak. A 10-degree blade will cut oak and hickory, but the 7-degree blade is much better. So.
Works for better for most of what you do, 7-degree.
Yeah, and I found I can do a 7-degree on all different kinds of lumber. So, okay, I want to bring these right here up.
Okay.
While we're turning it.
Yep.
And also, I want to show you another tip. When you're working with a big log, like this is not big by no means, but you put a 22-inch log, 24-inch log on there, it can be hard to turn. But you can set these on it, and this helps a lot. So, just while you're turning.
Okay. I was hoping you didn't have an easy way. I like to struggle and fight with things.
There you go.
I'm kind of...
Okay. For this particular cut, we're still going to need to be on that, so that will be okay.
Okay, because that's why I said it kind of rolled out from under it.
Yeah.
It's pretty critical that you're flush with that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'll push that up against it.
Yeah, and just
tighten it down.
Yeah.
That's not up too high, is it?
No. And even this one here, don't really have to be tight, but
just it's kind of got a little bit of leverage that holds it in place, right? So once you get down to a cant, you don't want your big log stops. You want something really small. It's built into these stainless steel plates. If you don't have that, this drops all the way in.
Mm-hmm. And it would go around this way here.
And there's your low stop. Now he has an 8-inch square cant, and he's going to cut it in half to 4 inches. Then we'll flip the 2 pieces over and then start slicing it into 2x4s. We got a nice little stack of lumber. Didn't take that long.
No.
But I got a couple questions that, as a guy who's thinking about buying a mill, as you've had one for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
First is, there's a tendency with some like equipment purchases or new hobbies to think, well, boy, if I had that, I'd make all this lumber, and then you buy it and never use it. Would you buy a sawmill again? Do you think this was a good investment for you?
It was definitely a good investment. The bill's already paid for itself. In the background, there's what we call a bacon shack that we built. So I milled the cedar from that, and if I went and bought the lumber to build that.
Oh, especially when you get into a more premium wood like cedar as opposed to pine. But even just going to the lumber yard and buying pine is expensive.
Yes, it is.
And then there's probably an important factor is if you like being out here doing stuff.
Yeah. This is a hobby for me. I'm doing it because I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. And one of the things I want to get into is taking stuff like that, putting it in a kiln. I've got that on my list of things to do is get me a kiln built. But I want to make some outdoor furniture and maybe make some oak bed frames and different things like that.
Yeah, and I've done a few where I've dried the lumber naturally, and I've been drying it now inside of my building where it's a little bit climate controlled. And then I've got a thickness planer and some woodworking equipment. And I just built my wife a wooden frame swing for the grandkids, and it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun.
So that's a general idea of if you would still recommend or if you would still buy a sawmill. But what do you think about Woodland Mills? Has this been quality? Has it felt like good for what you paid?
I feel like I really have got my money's worth. The only issue at all, if I were to count it an issue, is the magnetic scale that's on these. They will weather, so you have to replace them periodically. I haven't replaced mine yet, but I'm at a place where I need to replace them.
And with the type of woods here that what you have on your property, the 26 is a good size for you.
Definitely. If I was going to go bigger, I probably would want a bigger tractor, and in addition to that, I would want a hydraulic mill. Again, if you put a 26-inch, 16-foot log on here, it takes a hoss to turn it.
I've done it. The first one of these I had out was a HM130, and the log we put on it weighed 4,000 pounds, and it took us a half day to get that on there because I didn't have the skid loader yet. My tractor couldn't pick it up. He had a homemade trailer, but he couldn't, that would lift the log, but he couldn't drive with it hardly, and so it was an ordeal. So I'm focusing on the ability to handle a bigger log, but you got to be able to get them on there first.
You got to be able to get
and
them on there.
It's a good way to hurt your back trying to mess with those.
It is. You know, it's one of the things some people will argue bigger is better, and that's true to an extent. But you get a bigger tractor, then you get a bigger truck, then you get a bigger trailer, and then if you get a bigger mill, you do bigger logs. And a minute
ago we said it was a hobby.
It's a hobby. When it becomes more than a hobby, it's not fun anymore. So anyway, for what this one here does. Probably the thing that I questioned myself the most on is a 14 horsepower Kohler. I wasn't for sure how easy it would be to start because that doesn't have an electric start. But I've been so pleased with that. Once you'll get it warmed up, just one crank. They probably saw it in the video, but just like one crank and it will start almost all the time. So.
Is that a pretty big price jump to get that bigger engine on it?
I don't remember the exact amount, but it was very minimal, very minimal.
So if I was buying a mill today, it's probably be a Woodland Mills. I really appreciate you taking time to show me this, and we've got a few other projects we're going to play with now. So
we are.
Larry's channel, Full Circle Ozarks. So you want to give them the 30-second idea of what you guys are about and what you do on your channel?
I'd be honored to. We're actually building a homestead. I'm retired Air Force. Went from retired Air Force, and I had another career in IT, and now we're just back out here building our homestead from scratch. And this is our retirement life. What we do out here, we kind of do it for fun. And so, you know, we're going to have some farm animals, a few chickens, a couple of goats, and different things like that. But we're just out here enjoying ourselves, having the time of our life.
And if you watch, they talk about faith and family and machines, and it's a lot of fun. So I appreciate you taking time to watch. I'll put links on the screen to more of our videos. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.